Welcome to the All-Star Break edition of Sharing Sox. I'm Southside Sox duty geezer Leigh Allan. With me, my son, and currently, while he's in Chicago for the rehearsals of the world premiere of his new play, next door correspondent Will, and we are taking the usual All-Star break to take a look back and a look forward. Would you like to look forward or back first?
Well, I certainly don't want to look back at all.
Okay,
Uh,
well, I think we should look back. Let's go through back quickly and then forward. The forward is the big thing at this point. You can look forward. It's something to look forward to. Uh, but looking back, I happen to look at the individual D wars. This is and the D wars can vary a lot from Fangraphs to Baseball Reference. These are the Baseball Reference ones. And of the 15 players who've had some amount of playing time with the Sox and kind of count, 8 of them are negative defensively, led by Andrew Vaughn, of course, at minus 1.3, Gavin Sheets at minus 0.9, Grandal and Abreu minus 0.6, Grandal doing that in relatively few games. And Berger at minus 0.5. I mean, you get the hang of it. On the plus side, and Robert's a negative. And there are reasons for Robert to be negative, even though he's a Golden Glove potential and has been there. Plus side, Reese McGuire, a 0.9, Josh Harrison, a 0.8, Telly Savalas, 0.4, and then Engel and Garcia coming in at 0.2. You notice a lot of things about the guys who are good defenders. They don't play very much. We like to play guys who can't catch the ball or throw it. It's a Sox thing.
yeah, I mean, I feel like low-hanging fruit is criticizing Sox defensive war at this point of the season. I'm honestly pretty shocked anybody has positive war on the team outside of McGuire.
Well, Josh has been very good,
Yeah, he's
and
been.
Engel's always very good. He'd be much higher, except he's played 68 games, but a bunch of those he's played 1 or 2 innings. So he
Yeah.
didn't have war is a cumulative thing, and he didn't have a chance to accumulate. I looked up for comparison to some of our defenders. The guy, and if I just said, who do you think is the worst defender of the last 25 years? Might not be the name that leaps off the page, although it might be. He'd certainly be near the top of the list, and that would be Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez is
Oh,
a joke defender,
yeah, of
but
course.
Manny Ramirez over 19 years averaged minus 1.2. So Andrew Vaughn in half a season is worse than the average full season of Manny Ramirez.
To be fair, though, Manny Ramirez was playing the position he claimed to know how to play. Andrew Vaughn is playing a
That's
position
true.
we just throw him into
That's
because we've
because what
got
the White Sox like to do is just sign as many designated hitters as humanly possible.
we got a lot of
Throw
DH.
them around the field at will. Put them at first and left and right, behind the plate, anywhere. It's good.
Well, half the league needs DHs now, so we should spread that love and start getting rid of some of them. I mean, a new half of the league, the whole league needs DHs now. So we should not be so married to having 8 of them at one time.
On full war, Jose is great at 2.8. Luis, 2.3, terrific. Um, Tim, 1.6. At this point, we're a little over halfway done. You should be above 2 to be an all-star level, and above 1, like a 1.1 or so, to be a major league player, the major league level starter. The only other one who comes in close to that and doing it on very little play, so he rates, is Adam Engel, who doesn't get to play.
At
I
all.
mean, an interesting thing, I looked up this too on Engel. He is hitting right-handers much better than left-handers this year. He's hitting right-handers at 286, but he plays behind all these other guys when he can also play the field. I have a thing with the use of Adam. I really do. I think it's just horrible that he is underused the way he is.
Well, it's weird. It's like we're still playing Adam Engel as if this is like 2017 Adam Engel, where you have a guy who can come in and catch a ball from and do a good job with that, but never gets hits. Well, he has now proven himself over and over to be an actual solid offensive player for this team. The team even jokes about it, about how you bring in Adam Engel now as an offensive replacement instead of a defensive replacement. They're all aware that the
He
guy is.
tore up Minnesota the last 4 games.
I mean, he's been great at the plate. He certainly compared to a lot of our other guys. I mean, Lurie is, yes, he's now above 200. He got there just in
Well, he's
time.
certainly out hitting Sheets.
Well,
And
yeah,
Sheets is out there to stumble around in the outfield.
right. It truly makes no sense. I mean, Sheets gets at bats just because he's left-handed, and our manager is clueless about anything. So he's just looking at it and saying, "Well, we got to have a lefty in there, so let's put Sheets in." I'm sure that's a reason Leory starts a lot and plays a lot too, is because he's a switch hitter, even though he doesn't really hit the ball from either side. But not playing Adam Engel at this point makes exactly zero sense. And maybe we'll see it in the second half of the season a bit more. But there's just no excuse whatsoever for Adam Engel not to be in that game. Just in terms of base running, in terms of defense, of course, but he's hitting as well as almost anyone on the team right now, and he's weirdly hitting for power. It's a guy that absolutely should be an everyday starter for the rest of the year. Do I think he will be? No. I think
No,
we will
not
see an
going to happen.
outfield that includes Lurie Garcia and Gavin Sheets on Friday. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon. So they have not gotten back into playing yet. But Friday night, I will be shocked if the Hall of Fame baseball person does the right thing and puts Adam Engel out there.
One thing in the process of looking these things up, I looked up how many games. Now, the Sox played 92 games, 46 and 46. And I looked up how many each player has played, the position players. And as you would guess, the man who I think is just far and away our MVP, Jose Abreu, has played 90 out of 92. And they probably had to tie him down to not play in the other two. I think it was after he got hit or something, right? Something like that.
Yeah, he had like a small, might even have been like a hand injury or something like that. That was very brief. But yeah, I mean, 90 out of 92 games, that's kind of what I expect from a Major League Baseball player. I realize it's hot, it's summer and whatnot, but you know, if we've played 92 games, your starters, your stars should all be over 80.
I would say 80 would be a magic number, but we have nobody else over 74.
Ridiculous.
Luis Roberts played 74. AJ Pollock 73 with an ops plus of 70, incidentally. Has played 73 games and
Well, Pollock did go
Lord.
on. Pollock was either on paternal or bereavement early on in the season for a little while, so he had a week or two that he would have been out because he was on that list. Right, he played the first game and then I think he was gone for a week or so, maybe even more after that.
Oh yeah, very very early. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he's been overused if anything. He's a very average defender, 0.1 plus on the D WAR. Andrew Vaughn, 72 games. And that's it for anybody over 70.
Well, and Andrew Vaughn is another example of bad management because even though, yes, Andrew Vaughn is not good in the field, how many of those games should Andrew Vaughn have been starting? It's a lot more than what'd you just say? He played
At the
68.
DH.
I mean, come on. That's ridiculous to have a guy who's hitting 300 at least and hits for power and, is got a lot of spirit and is an important part of this team. The number of times my White Sox friend group text thread has popped up with, wait, Andrew Vaughn's not playing again? It's been shocking.
Well, and of course he can't.
No sense.
I don't know that the application of don't run hard, guys, applies to him because you can't tell.
I think Andrew Vaughn runs very hard slow. Every time.
I think he tries his best. I think that's just all there is to it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, nobody over 70 games. Engel's next at 68, but a lot of that is eighth, ninth inning defensive replacement when he should be playing the whole game. And on down it goes. It's just really It's just like we got a bunch of 80-year-old men out there who just can't handle playing major. I know they've got to have time off. I don't expect anybody to play 162 games or even 155 games, but 150 seems reasonable. 145 at least. Nobody's headed to that. Nobody is, except Jose,
Jose, who is the oldest player
the oldest player on the team.
It is.
On the
It's
pitching side,
ridiculous.
it's exactly
ridiculous.
what you'd expect. So I won't go into the numbers, except for one that sticks out to me, which is that Michael Kopech has pitched 83 innings. And being a typical White Sox starter, although they have in the last week or two, they've been listening. We've been screaming about how many pitches they throw, and both Giolito and Cease figured out how to throw fewer pitches in an inning. So I guess they listened to the show.
For 1 week, they did. For 1 week, they did.
That's important. They listened to the show and decided, well, I don't really have to go to 3-2 on everybody. I can strike him out on 1-2. It'll work.
Yeah, I think the best thing Ethan Katz did was at some point last week, he told Giolito and Cease that there's a zone you can throw it in that's right in front of the catcher, like right in front of the catcher. And if you throw
now,
it
to be fair here, they don't get that little box we get on TV.
It's true. It's true. You know what? Good call. I'm speaking out of turn. You're right. You're right.
Kopech, though, has pitched 83 innings. Now, all of that's more than he's pitched last year, which means more than any season ever. The talk from the beginning of the season was 120 to 130, forgetting how many pitches per inning, 120 to 130. Well, we're just over halfway through and he's at 83. And they're going to be having to take it easy with him, which we'll get into with the future thing of what the Sox should be doing at this point. But I think his load's going to have to come down. And I noticed in the schedule for the Cleveland series, because after the first 4 games coming out with Cleveland, it's a silly series. I mean, it's just like wandering down to AAA. It's Colorado, Kansas City, Texas. I mean, it's just the dregs of baseball. Oakland. But they've got the 4 with Cleveland, which, and we should point this out because we said we're not buying any more tickets. This is not going to happen until La Russa gets fired. We are going to the game Sunday, but it's because you got free tickets.
Yes, through charity donation. Yes, so these are tickets that we did not contribute any funds whatsoever to Jerry Reinsdorf's pocket.
And not in any way, not even indirectly, because it was a charity donation in the first place.
Exactly.
White Sox charities. So, and that's going to be interesting. Cease and Bieber. I mean, I really look forward to that.
I mean, I'm thrilled that we're going to see that matchup. I'm still frustrated with Dylan Cease. I know that that's an unpopular opinion, and I say on here every week, I've been the biggest Cease supporter from the start. This past week, I was proud of our guy for getting through 7 innings. We'll see what happens. I think it could easily be a game where Cease is out after 4 2/3 and 110 pitches, and Bieber throws into the 8th at 85 pitches, because Cleveland's a lot more disciplined at the plate than the White Sox are. And the last time we faced Bieber, we made him throw like 6 pitches an inning or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah,
we swung at every single pitch he threw. At one point, he had thrown 50 pitches and like 42 of them were strikes or something like that. It was just ridiculous.
We forced him to go 9 innings, so.
We did. We really wiped him out. I'm obviously looking forward to this pitching matchup. You can't have a better one. I appreciate that we're not just throwing a scrub up against Bieber and conceding the game. I always think it's more interesting when they set up these matchups so that the elite pitchers actually face each other, which is
and I think the Hall of Famer baseball person set up because Cleveland had posted its pitchers way early. I mean, like when I looked right after the All-Star game, they posted, and the Sox didn't post until late Wednesday. So Tony had the choice of the matchups.
So what are the matchups leading up to that one?
I forget the White Sox
have going. I mean,
Giolito.
Okay.
And then the doubleheader, one of which is a makeup game, will be Cueto and who am I missing here?
Lynn.
It's got to be Lynn. Yeah, because Kopech has the series off.
Ooh, Lynn. Ooh.
Well, who knows? They may be pitching a 27th man against him. So
right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for this pitching matchup on Sunday. I think in a lot of ways it's going to tell us a lot of what to expect moving forward. Yes, we have this ridiculously easy schedule following that. But as you know, as someone who has predicted series outcomes on this podcast this year, none of those games will be easy for us either. And in fact, road games in Colorado could get really ugly really fast depending on who we have pitching.
Well, I
But
presume Kopech will be the first one, and then Giolito.
and the big issue, which going back to Kopech, it's one thing to have 83 innings, but it's another thing to have 83 innings for the White Sox, because a lot of guys out there can have thrown 83 innings and not have thrown as many pitches as a lot of other guys. Well, we kind of function the opposite way, where 83 innings is probably 110 innings worth of pitches. So you're in real overworking zone with a lot of these guys at this point. And we're so bad at eating innings, our starters are, that they're not even, you look at the list of who's thrown the most innings. Our guys don't touch most of the guys in the league, yet our pitch counts are very comparable to what these guys throw. So that is something that absolutely has to change. I think it was a really good sign from Giolito this week. Really good sign to see him get through 7 innings and to look pretty darn good doing it. His pace of pitching went up, and I think that actually benefits him. I think he does better when he is controlling the pace of the game, much like Shane Bieber does. He is not as good when he takes that 30-minute break in between pitches that we often see from Cease or from Giolito when he's not doing well. And with Dylan getting through 7 innings, I mean, if Dylan can continuously get through 7 innings, he is the best right-hander in Major League Baseball. I mean, he's striking guys out all over the place. His stuff is just nasty. But if he's only going to make it through 5 innings, there's a limit there. We should take our break here, though, before we talk about
The future,
which I'm actually pretty positive about. I think we may have some things going our way moving forward. But we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back on Sharing Socks. Welcome back to Sharing Socks. We talked about the dreaded past, which in ESPN's most recent sort of recap / projection referred to the White Sox as the most disappointing team in Major League Baseball this year, which is actually
hard to argue.
Common phrase used when describing this team. It's pretty harsh for a team that's at the 500 mark, but also we should absolutely not be at that mark. One thing that ESPN
and we're in the AL Central.
Exactly. One thing they talked about were these injuries, because injuries are the number one thing White Sox fans like to point to as the reason we're not doing well. And they mentioned Moncada, Grandal, Lynn. These are guys who have missed a lot of playing time, but as ESPN and Eloy, but as ESPN pointed out, when they've played, they have sucked. So they've actually been pretty irrelevant. The team has started actually getting the bats going, which has been a lot more fun to watch for us in that week leading up to the All-Star break. We started putting up, more than 1 or 2 runs a game against mediocre pitchers, and that was exciting. ESPN does not really have high hopes for the White Sox moving forward. They put them in a tier of teams that they say you might see in the postseason, which we certainly can't argue. Sitting at 500, we have no argument there. I think they are in the same tier as the Mariners, which is a little perplexing to me. It makes me kind of actually throw their whole thing out the door, because the Mariners are as hot can possibly
I guess the
be.
might on the Mariners would be the Mariners aren't going to catch the Astros. And
No.
so they have to get a wild card, which means they have to beat one of the AL East teams.
That is true.
Well, 2 of them if you include Baltimore, which is incredibly high.
Who was in the same tier?
But they can't be behind more than say Toronto and Tampa Bay. So they've got a tough position for that, whereas the White Sox have a chance, a decent chance. As far as winning the division, I looked at the 3, Zips and Pacoda at 538, two of the three, Zips and 538, have the White Sox winning the division. Dakota has them losing all of it by one game, one way or the other, with Cleveland within a game. I mean, it's just right there. Brett Valentini, our boss, did his own projection going series by series by series by series all the way through the season. And he ends up predicting that the Sox will tie the Guardians and therefore will not go to the playoffs because of the head-to-head matchup, which is the first tiebreaker.
Now, how come the Twins are just being sort of completely written off here?
Well, and I think that's where we go interesting looking to the future. Twins have horrible pitching problems. And the question I think for the Twins is, I think they can be in it all the way or win it if they are able to go out on the market and get pitchers. And they'll have to compete against big money teams to get that. But if they get one of the big guy starters and a top-notch reliever, I would not be at all surprised if they get David Robertson.
Well, and I think with the Twins too, they will, they will live or die by Byron Buxton. Byron Buxton.
If Buxton goes into another extended slump, they're out of it.
They're in real trouble. I mean, he is the lifeblood of that team. Even a team that has someone like Luis Arias, who is remarkable at putting the bat on the ball. One of my favorite players to watch. I just wish he was on a different team. But with Buxton, the guy had some pop, of course, but we saw very, very poor batting average numbers from Buxton in the first half of the season.
He's chasing a lot. When he gets into a slump, he chases. It's
big time,
like a lot of players do.
Big time.
And he's got to kind of control that because nobody throws him a strike.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to the Twins being in the picture, it all comes down to pitching and Byron Buxton. I don't see a world where the Twins are at all in the chase for Luis Castillo or any of the other big time starters. I just don't know that they would be willing to part with what they would have to part with to get those players. David Robertson certainly could happen. I could even see someone like that coming to the White Sox, though it's unlikely that we will do anything productive or helpful before the trade deadline. Who do you think? So we're talking about moving forward. We've got some huge pitching problems with the White Sox. The most glaring one, of course, being Lance Lynn, who
and then Keuchel's innings, Keuchel's workload. Kopech's workload. Keuchel's workload is gonna be at his son's little league game pitching batting.
Thank goodness we're not sitting here talking about Keuchel's workload. That would be a really bad position to be in. Keuchel, who
those K guys, they confuse old people.
Who rested
Kopech's workload is a bit of a problem.
If you get DFA'd by the Diamondbacks in 2022, I think it's over for you. So sorry, Dallas.
The Athletic. One of their guys ran a column on the 10 best starters available and listed 3 matchups amongst the likely teams that would want to go get them. The first one where the White Sox get mentioned at all is number 5, which is Kyle Freelander of Colorado. And he's a lefty, which is very good for the White Sox. Could use one of those. He's got a 4.46 ERA, but he pitches in Colorado.
Right.
And he's apparently a big breaking ball guy, and that's really bad to be in Colorado because breaking balls don't break. And the other one where they list the White Sox first is down, I think they list him as the number 7 overall best, is one of the most famous of all, Madison Bumgarner. That's not that'd be a great fit. I don't know what Arizona would want. Certainly, we've got expendable guys in the majors who are under team control for a long time. Gavin Sheets comes to mind. There's no reason for Gavin Sheets to be on this team. We've got 14 designated hitters.
And as our token lefty, he is not really getting it done. So,
no.
I have no clue what
Arizona. And we've got Grandal coming back, who really isn't going to catch, probably. I wouldn't be surprised if we keep 3 catchers, at least until Sebi is
He's coming back down to
He's
earth.
5 for his last 29, so he's coming back to normal, and he may come to very bad. But as long as he's adequate, he's better than Grandal behind the plate. Pretty much anybody is. And
I mean, technically, if you're adequate batting, you're better than Grandal because Grandal is hitting about $150.
Yeah, I mean, but at least Grandal's a left-handed bat. If you need a left-handed pinch hitter with power late in a game, it might as well be Grandal as Sheets.
Absolutely.
And you're not getting rid of Grandal because you're paying him $600 billion trillion. So
yeah,
and nobody's going to pick him up. There's no way in the world you're going to trade him to anybody. He's untradeable unless you, I don't know, even if you took the whole salary, if he's tradable.
Yeah, he's not tradable. I mean, the only situation where he's tradable is a catastrophic injury to 2 catchers on a major contending team. And I don't even wish that on any team or their players. So Grandal is very untradeable. I think you're exactly right. He should just become our lefty off the bench. He's got power. If Reese McGuire hit for power at all, we wouldn't even talk about Grandal ever playing, really, because McGuire is far superior defensively. He's also seemingly at least a little bit better at the plate these days in terms of just putting the bat on the ball. And yeah, I just, it's a mess, an absolute mess of below average DHs that we have on this team. I would do personally Sheets for Bumgarner straight up. I think that's.
I don't know that Arizona would take that. I think they'd want something thrown in. Yeah, we've got a bunch of. They're never going to be anything pitchers hanging around. They might want of our AAA pitchers.
Sure. That's kind of what I
want. A AAA pitcher
and
Sheets because they're going to need somebody to put in rotation. He's in their rotation. So
yeah,
something like that.
Those guys. I think that's an interesting option. Freelander is a really great option. I, personally would love it if we don't trade for him till after the Colorado series, just in case we can face a left-hander with breaking balls that don't break in Colorado. Yeah, it would be nice to whoop up on Freelander before snagging him. But I think we have to do something for starting pitching because Lynn just doesn't have it. And that's not to say he's not going to get better. He certainly could get better, but he's not going to be great. He's not going to be dominant this year. Whatever is plaguing him injury-wise, he has not fully recovered from. Kopech is already overpitched, so we're going to have to see a dramatic decrease in his,
And we really have nothing. The only thing in the minors we have is Davis Martin, who's been a pleasant surprise. But I think he's a pleasant surprise if he pitches once a month.
Well, and we do have
every
Ronaldo Lopez, who has actually been very.
He's been great in the bullpen, and we can't afford to lose him in the bullpen.
You don't want to bring him to the starting position because you need him in the bullpen because our starters only go 5 innings. So you can't just move Lopez up because then you got nobody who can eat the middle of the game at that point. You can't bank on Tanner Banks going out there every single day and trying to get it done. I think our absolute most desperate move is we need a starting pitcher who can go out there and with Freehand's ERA around 4.46 in Colorado, let's call that 3.90 anywhere else, and 350 even. I know I'm going on the high end, and that isn't bad. That is not bad for the American League starter these days. If we had a number 4, number 5 guy who's got a 360, 370, 380 ERA, you and I are taking that every day. We are absolutely cool with that, especially if our bats heat up and our runs per game head on the trend that they're heading. I mean, it would be ideal to get someone like Freelander. The issue there is, who do you have to give up for someone like that? I think it's easier to trade Sheets and a scrub for Bumgarner than it is to trade Sheets and a scrub for Freelander.
I agree, because Colorado also, you see these write-ups all the time about the Rockies. Mysteriously, they think they're still in it, and I think they go back to that season where they won, 20 of the last 21 games.
Yeah.
So, well, we're in it. We're in it to the end. That's immortalized in Colorado ownership minds. Um,
Well, and also like with what the Atlanta Braves did last year, now everyone thinks that they're under a 500 team at the break can win the World Series, which I'm sure the owners are sitting there being like, God, I wish people would stop thinking that so that we can do our rebuild and tank for 7 years and just be fine with it. Colorado's going nowhere in the NL West. They are going nowhere. So they will 100% be sellers. It's just a matter of how much they're going to want for someone like Freelander. Of course, we would give up Sheets to Colorado in a heartbeat. The question is, what additional kinds of pieces would they want?
I think they'd want Sheets and Stever and somebody else,
Yeah,
probably Cespedes.
exactly. And if it's Cespedes or Colas or Montgomery or something like that, obviously those are deal breakers. That's not worth doing for for Kyle Freelander. But I do think starting pitching is going, as much as it's a problem now, it's going to be so much more of a problem in 2 months that we are absolutely going to need a new guy. And honestly, it would be a catastrophe for us right now if Johnny Cueto wasn't doing what he was doing.
Oh yeah,
You
oh yeah,
know,
we'd be
calling
10
up
games
Johnny
under.
Cueto while he's in the hot tub drinking a beer and saying, "Hey man, you want to play Major League Baseball still?" And then Cueto showing up and being like, "Sure," and I'm also still good at it. Has really saved this season to this point for us in a lot of ways. So I don't know exactly what the answer is. I don't expect the White Sox to make any smart moves whatsoever before the deadline.
What do you think the smart move by Cleveland will be? They need a bat. Unless Franmil Reyes suddenly mysteriously comes out of a season-long slump,
Which he was starting to
he
right
was
before the
starting to
break.
do.
I have no clue what Cleveland's going to do.
Now, what they obviously need and will not get is Wilson Contreras, because Wilson Contreras is going somewhere. But I'm guessing the Mets, McCann is now, I think, out for the year, most of the year, and he wasn't playing well anyway. I would guess the Mets, with their infinite supply of money, uh, plus I'm sure people to give away, will end up getting Contreras, outbidding anybody with whatever bodies they have to put on the line.
Yeah, the Mets definitely make the most sense there. Cleveland, of course, would absolutely love to have him. I think they're
Well, they've got a great farm system. They're one of the top 2 or 3 farm systems in everybody's ratings. And we all know, goodness knows, if you're in the American League Central, you know, they develop young pitchers left, right, and forwards. They could go down to your neighborhood softball game down here and pick out 3 guys and turn them into major league pitchers in 3 years. So they could afford to give up a couple of young pitchers to the Cubs to get Contreras.
Yeah, they absolutely could. It's just whether or not they will. You know, they're kind of a stingy team and when it comes to front office stuff most of the time.
Well, they're
Um,
very stingy, but you're talking about a salary for less than half the season.
Absolutely, and someone who is a proven double upgrade from any of their current catchers. If Cleveland gets Wilson Contreras, that I think opens up a whole new world of hurt for the White Sox in terms of this division, because Contreras is so dramatically better than anyone Cleveland has for that position, and so dramatically better than anyone we have for that position. I think it opens up a whole new world of hurt for us if they're able to land someone like that. I mean, that's
Oh,
a
while we're on the Cubs things, because I mentioned 2 left-handed pitchers, because those were the 2 on the Athletics top 10 list. There's a lefty who used to pitch for us and used to pitch for the Cubs and is now with the Pirates. I love Jose Quintana. I always have. He's pitching I mean, he's had some rough times, but he is pitching very well this year. If you don't get Freelander or Baumgartner, I think that's one to go for.
yeah, and
And I'd love to see him back with the Sox.
he's also going to come at a very, I think, affordable price. You know,
Yeah, it's the Pirates.
it's the Pirates. He's at the end of his career in a lot of ways. So I think he's certainly a guy we could get. Am I, is my mouth watering at the idea of getting Jose Quintana? I don't think so. But he certainly has been better. And while his numbers have come against the NL Central, if you're going to switch to another division and post similar numbers, it's the AL Central, the other real stink show of a division. That is all the time we have for this week. Baseball starts up again tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. I don't think there's any days of summer more boring than the Wednesday and Thursday that come after the All-Star game.
Well, there's some games today, but you just don't happen to be one of them.
Right. You're right. But I'm very thankful that we will be back in action tomorrow and that we will be able to check out the marquee pitching matchup of Sunday in person. Do you have any final thoughts before we sign off this week?
No, I think if we're looking at the future, I agree with every prediction I've seen in the sense that I think it's going down to the end.
Yes, it will be going down to
And
the
there
end.
will be no wild card from the Central. So you're either going to win the division or not, and it's going down to the end. And it could go down to the end three-way.
100%. Absolutely could. I totally agree
And
with
six
your
of the last
total
9
agree.
games are against the Twins.
Wow. Yeah, it's gonna come down to that. There's no doubt about it. The division's too tight right now, and nobody is really shining at all. The Twins were at one point, but that's kind of fizzled out. Cleveland really was, and then they went on their horrible streak. So we'll see what happens. But that's all the time we have for today. We will actually have some White Sox baseball to talk about next week. So we will see you next time on Sharing Sox.